Good morning, everyone. You are watching Barnstable this morning. It's Monday morning, and as we do each and every Monday morning, we welcome our town manager, Tom Lynch, into the studio. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Excellent.
How are you?
Just fine and dandy.
So we've got a lot of things to cover today. I wanted to start off with something that occurred at last week's town council meeting, and that is a discussion about some changes to the town code as they pertain to rental regulations, problem properties, etc. Can you talk about really how this proposed change came about?
Well, one of the more frequent calls we get in Town Hall for problems that are in disrepair, or we have a lot of neighborhood issues, you know, with some criminal activity and noise complaints. So those will come in on a regular basis. I had seen something some time ago where the city of Boston had a similar situation where they had something like 136 criminal calls to a particular site. So the mayor put together what he was calling a problem property task force and ordinance, and we got a copy of that, and Joanne Miller-Buntage at Growth Management, went through that. And at the same time, the Voices of the Village was starting up an offshoot of the Greater Hyannis Civic Association, because they were looking at a wide variety of issues that impacted the village, and one of them was a task force that was looking at, I believe it was landlords' rentals and regulations, and they set that task force up under the leadership of Laura Cronin, and they tackled this issue with some vigor, and because they had individuals who were directly impacted by this. And it wasn't, I thought one thing was good about, or is good about, that particular task force is that it's not just from Hyannis citizens. There are some Osterville residents and others that were in on that. And of course the town got involved because they were talking about regular changes to existing codes, and so legal sat with them, and regulatory services, which has the responsibility to go out and enforce these codes, were sitting at the table with Tom Geiler and Richard Scally and Tom McKean and folks that would be responsible for doing some regulation development on this.
Right.
So I think what we've seen over the last, I believe, 18 months, a real, effort from the grassroots up to present something to the town council. And on Thursday night, we had probably just 4 or 5 people get up to try to give the genesis for how it had started and hit on certain aspects that they were interested in. For instance, one was talking about the first ordinance that is before us, which is the actual problem property one, which is kind of like the bad boys, the people that are out there renting, who are creating criminal activity and causing resources to be spent into a neighborhood or on a particular property. And the chief is concerned about, or the police department's concerned about, drug activity or any sort of illegal activity going
Absolutely.
on out of the property. So that one has a component where after a certain number, just a few reports to the police, the chief of police has the opportunity to actually assign a detail there. And what you're frequently trying to do, and we try to do in those situations, is talk to the landlords about what's going on. So with some of these properties, when you're not getting cooperation, this will be a way to get cooperation. And way back in February, Jen Cullum, who was one of the prime movers in this, Deb Dagwan, very interested in it, 2 councilors that have been working on this, and the chief and I actually went to a meeting of the Captain's Quarters, which is a homeowners association out in Property Owners Association on the Hiramar Road area, Fresh Hills Road area, and they heard the general concept and were all for it, because responsible landlords will have absolutely no problem
Absolutely.
with this.
And if there's a potential fine that they may be incurring from the town for repeat police calls, they might, might make them think twice about just who they're renting to, or perhaps have a little bit more control over their properties.
I think the message I wanted to bring this morning, though, is that these are, changes to the way our existing code is, and people may feel that they are infringing on their rights and stuff, and we would want any property owner who has any concern to bring those matters before the council. This will be a policy decision that your town councilor will be voting on and asking the town to enforce. And you want to understand it. You want to be sure you know what you know, the genesis was behind it, how they debated some of the same questions or issues you might have. So I'm sure over the course of the next 2 weeks, you'll probably also be talking to others about the same issue and getting a little different slant. But I know that the you know, Jen Cullum and the Greater Hyannis Civic Association has gone out to every single civic association. They've gotten endorsement from some of those. They'll be there to speak. But I noticed at Thursday night's meeting there were some new faces. I introduced myself, and they seemed to be homeowners who were concerned about how this might impact them, because after you go from the criminal one, there's the blight one. And blight is one of those terms that's very hard to define.
There's a lot of gray area in terms of that. I mean, so, one person's blight is another person's landscaping.
That's right. So that's right. And so people may want to, you know, have suggestions as to how to amend the legislation, make it more palatable. Be sure that, but you know, we all kind of know that we're talking about the most difficult properties out there, and I think that people will be looking to make sure that this isn't used just for a reason for the government or the town to come onto your property and enforce something they've never enforced before. So, and then there's also a noise provision that I know will garner some good discussion. So this may, you know, I've heard the town council president say we'll take our time with these. We're not going to rush with them. If they can get through them in one session, fine. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some matters postponed and debate a little further.
Absolutely.
But I'm really pleased that the group has, you know, brought this up and that the councils are giving this very serious consideration.
Well, you know, as you say, it really is democracy in action, Tom. It's a way of showing, you know, citizens who have concerns, going through the channels, excuse me, and seeing what can be accomplished. And of course, they've got ideas. There are certain things that the Greater Hyannis Civic Association wants to see, working with yourself and the rest of the town officials and the town council to really come to something that's going to work. Really is again a showing of how effective our groups can be. And
I think for folks who want to talk directly to those that were right on the ground floor of developing these proposed ordinances, you know, they could email them at greathyannis@aol.com, or also they have a website, www.hyanniscivic, all one word.com. So that'll be a way that they could get involved in a discussion, and we may also consider doing something on our Barnstable I-Forum to get a little discussion going. So, because I think the more conversations we can have around it at whatever level will help the councils as they deal with these difficult policy decisions.
Absolutely. So, Tom, moving on from those things, some excitement in Town Hall today is well, I'll let you tell everyone what's going on.
You know, this morning we're going to be having and I'll be speaking very shortly at the opening session of our Inside Barnstable Town Government for Employees. And originally we had thought that we would do this annually with new employees who are coming in, but it's worked out that this will be our second session that we've done with employees who are interested in learning more about town government. And you know, you can get a job in at the town, do a wonderful job doing that, but if you're on the Department of Public Works or you're, you know, over at Regulatory Services, you may have little idea what happens at finance, what happens in the town manager's office, what goes on at the fire districts of the airport, at different places. So this is an opportunity, a very condensed 1 week session, not all day, just a portion of each day, to have people be exposed to their fellow colleagues in all different departments. And it's always, I think people come back thinking, boy, I'm part of an organization that does an awful lot, and we're a big town with a lot of responsibilities, and this gives them a feeling to feel more a part of that and understand the organization they're a part of.
Right, it really does. And I went through the Citizens Leadership Academy a couple of years ago, and it was really, you know, I've been reporting on Barnstable issues for some time, but it really was a deeper look into things, and I learned a lot, and it was really fun.
And I think it is fun, and I think people come away with an understanding of how committed not only the department heads are to what's happening in a given area, but you know, division heads and staff that also take the time to come and present at these forums. So it's hopefully this will be helpful for employees, and we will be getting another session of the citizens inside Barnstable town government in the spring.
Great. Well, Tom, I thank you so much for joining us today on Barnstable This Morning. As always, have a fantastic week, and we'll chat with you again next Monday morning.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Tom Lynch is our town manager here in Barnstable. I'm Sarah Colvin.